Hello everyone, it's me, it's Rena. I'm the Slow Knitter from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to episode number 48, entitled Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda. It's Monday, February 17th. Happy President's Day. And, like most of the country, we're just getting a lot of rain and cloudiness and kind of icky weather, but yeah, it's a perfect day. It's Monday. It's a perfect day to podcast because, Mondays I usually try to keep it low because I've had such a busy weekend. Not really. Anyway, this is episode 48. All of my contact information you'll find below. Please subscribe if you have not done so yet, because sometimes I run some specials and some giveaways for my subscribers, so you want to be part of it. Anyway, this is my woulda, shoulda, coulda episode, and it's all positive. It's nothing bad. I'm just going to share some learnings I've had with you. I am wearing a recently finished FO. It is Andrea Mowry's Stone Crop Pullover. I keep saying Cardi in other podcasts, but really it's the pullover version. I think our Cardi is steeked. It's this, but it's steeked. I don't know. But anyway, so I will just move back so you can see it. I didn't make it overly cropped. I didn't make it overly long. I just sort of made it like around here, high hip kind of length. And this patterning down the sleeves. I'm finding, this is one of my woulda couldas. I'm finding that the neck is a little wide, so I'm gonna do a little crochet on the inside to sort of bring it in a little bit. I've been watching some videos about that. Anyway, I digress. Welcome back to all my subscribers. Thank you for tuning in again. My contact information is below. I said that on Instagram, on Instagram, Facebook, and all the social media platforms. I'm the Slow Knitter, at the Slow Knitter, and I'll put all that down below. And also on Ravelry, I'm the Slow Knitter ATL, short for Atlanta. I have to get that over with. I have to remember that I have to do that. Anyway, so yeah, I have a couple of finished objects, which is very unusual for me. So let's go right into the finished objects, and then I'll talk about some WIPs and through it, I'll talk about my woulda, shouldas. All good. I'm a relatively novice sweater knitter, I would say. I think I've knit a total of, going through my closet, 4 or 5 sweaters over the last 18 months or so. And each one has a specific lesson for me, which is really good because then I'll just improve as I go. It is still one of my favorite things to knit. So this is my first finished objects. And again, I like the neck a little closer. So I saw a video about using, from Roxanne Richardson, about using crochet hook and a single crochet in the back to sort of tighten up the back. So I'm going to try that. This pattern, for those of you not familiar with it, has bobbles in a lot of places. So I did the bobbles around the neck. I don't know if you can see that. And there were bobbles that like came here and here. And I preferred not to bobble everywhere. I like it around the neck, and that's where it's good. And then I just added a texture stitch where they call for bobbles. I made up a texture stitch and with purl and knits and stuff, just so it pops out a little bit, and I really like it. So I'm really happy with that. Love the colors. The colors were picked out for me or with me by Melanie up at Black Mountain Yarn Shop. This is Magpie Fibers in the navy colorway, her domestic fingering, and this is Spin Cycle dyed in the wool. Cold Mountain. And these are the colors that Andrea Mowry had on her pattern page that she knit it with, and I fell in love with it. I was like, I gotta do, that's exactly what I want to do. It's very comfortable. I will say that, it's very comfortable. The neck bothers me a little bit because I like a little closer neck. And apparently it can be achieved, so I will get to work on that. But in the meantime, I'm very happy with it. It's curing me of color work. I've done a lot of color work. I'm still doing color work, but this one was so much color work up and down the sleeves, up and down the body and the back, that I need a color work break. I'm still doing color work. I was like madly doing it. Now I'm not as madly doing it as I was. Anyway, so yeah, I'm really happy with this one. The other finished object that, if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen this, but I'll point it out to you, is my Stephen West Radiate shawl. And I was halfway done with it when I went to a Stephen West workshop up at Revival Yarns in Athens, Georgia, up east of here. And I use stash. By the way, I'm trying to use as much stash as I possibly can this year. Still buying. I'm not going to kid myself and say I'm not going to buy, but I'm still buying, but I'm buying with maybe a little bit more purpose than I was before. Yeah, I'm still buying, but not as randomly. I guess that's better, okay? Yeah. So this is the Radiate shawl. I mean, it's over 500 stitches, and I think the pattern goes as far as 650 stitches. I just about made it with 500, just because it's so big. And you know, it can be worn a variety of different ways. I'll tell you what yarn I use. This yarn and sort of the olive greens and the whitish greens are from an advent calendar that I got in 2018 from Nora George Yarns, this indie dyer in the UK. And I thought, I'm gonna use that. And I started using that, and then I had a hedgehog in the hunter green colorway sock, hedgehog sock, and that's this really beautiful green. It's got blue specks in it. It's pretty gorgeous. Although I find hedgehog sock a bit splitty to knit with, but really it just creates an amazing fabric. So this is the Radiate shawl by Stephen West. And yeah, I'm really, really, really happy with it. This is gonna be a gift for my sister-in-law. I'm gonna be seeing them, the Kilgannon side of the family. We're gonna be seeing them in a few weeks at a wedding in Tampa. So I'm bringing some shawls to gift some of my family with, and this will be one of them. And then they can fight over it. I mean, I'm bringing like 3 or 4 that they can all have, but this is folded in half. It's really lovely. It's fingering weight, it's nice, it's easy to wrap around. It's really, really lovely. So I've just put it in half. And when I met Steven and I showed him where I was, he suggested that I go, I think I was probably like midway through the white, and he said, okay, finish the white, and then I want you to do 12 garter ridges of the green. I think I made it to like 8. I was like, I can't do it anymore. But he said, and then I want you to bind off in a lime green. Okay, so I did one more stripe of the white with the green, and then I bound off in sort of this grasshopperish bright green that I had in my stash. So it's great. This is a complete stash job. I mean, some of the, like the hunter green, I think I bought it in 2017 maybe. So it's been around a while, but I'm glad I used it, and I have a lot left. And so I think that's gonna go in a crochet blanket that I'm planning on making. Yeah. So yeah, that's the Radiate shawl. 1, 2. I really got stuck. I was like, towards the end of last year, I had like no FOs, and I just wasn't motivated to finish anything. I just kept starting new things or frogging things. It just wasn't really motivated to finish anything. So for those of you who tuned into the last podcast, I'm trying this new method to try and finish my WIPs. I think it's working for now. Anyway, let me show you what else I did. Well, I have, so it's that and the Radiate shawl. Oh, on the floor. There's not a podcast I do that I don't drop something. So if you just excuse me for a minute while I nosedive. Okay, I had socks on the needles, and I had, and this was before I learned 2 at a time socks, 2 at a time toe-up socks. I was doing socks concurrently. Sometimes I wasn't in the mood for the concurrent. I just did a sock. But I did finish this sock. This is a sock. And again, I had this on the needle since, I don't know, the summer. I know, just like bring it with me places and just knit on it and put it down for weeks. But this is Mythica Fibers, and I love it. Aya is an independent dyer out of Japan, and the contrasting yarn, also from the Nora George advent calendar. I had a lot left over, so I spun some into singles, and then I magic knotted a few in groups of colors. That was the green, the white, and the green. And so I thought, oh, this would be perfect for heels, cuffs, and toes on this sock. This sock is not blocked yet because I'm going to block them together. But yeah, so that's half an object. But I do have another finished object. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Now, I have learned 2 at a time toe-up socks by my friend Cynthia at Heart and Spirit Atlanta, and where she taught a class. And since I'm an experienced toe-up sock knitter, the 2 at a time really kind of confounded me. Even though I did a tutorial lesson and did a pair using my friend Yolanda at Happy Knits. She has a tutorial on 2 at a time socks, toe up. It's a great tutorial. So if you're looking for that, tune into that. So I did hers and I completed a pair of toe-up socks, but there was something that just wasn't clicking with me on that one. I don't know why. So, but Cynthia's class worked for me, and I think I showed before that I had done, she did her class with a DK yarn, and I usually do my socks with sock weight yarn. So, that's a DK, but you know what? I loved it. I loved it. First of all, it went fast. And second of all, the fabric was not as thick, and for me, it worked out fine. I don't wear socks regularly. I knit socks for the art of it. I like to knit socks. They're fun to knit. I wear them when I'm taking a nap or, you know, sitting around the house in the evenings or meditating when my feet get cold. That's how I wear my socks. So now I have a variety of them. But I'm still a sock knitter. But I just finished, these are still damp because I just blocked them. But I just finished these toe-up socks that Cynthia taught. I did Judy's Magic Cast On. I did a German short row heel. In Cynthia's class, she teaches Fish Lips Kiss. I'm challenged by short row heels, no matter what they are. German short row, regular short row, Fish Lips Kiss. I mean, I'm just challenged by that. And the one thing I'm not challenged by is a garter stitch German short row heel that Mina Phillips, Knitting Expat, has. She shows a lot of, and I really like it, and I don't have any trouble with that one. I think it's the purl. I'm not a great purler. My pearls I always throw out on pearls. I'm taking some lessons that people are saying, switch the right needle with a smaller needle when you purl. I don't know. I'm going to try everything I can. But I'm really happy with the way these came out. Yeah. 2 at a time, toe up, German short row, heel, socks. Now the yarn, I have to thank again my friend Yolanda of Happy Knits. Please subscribe to her channel. It's so great. She talked about this yarn on her podcast constantly. And so I went out and I went ahead and bought some. And this is another stash buster. I had it in my sock yarn drawer. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try it. This dyer is fabulous. First of all, it comes in 250 gram skeins. And each one, and you wind them, and they come out matching. What? I know. So I'm really, really super happy with the way these came out. I I finished them this morning, and they're still a little wet from, soaking them. I like to soak them. I like to block my socks because they're, I think it lets the yarn bloom a little bit. You know what I mean? I think it's good for the yarn. So anyway, I'm very, very happy with it. Just as I'm happy with Stonecrop, although I'm going to fix the collar. It'll be a piece of cake. And this will be, and my Radiate shawl will be a gift to my sister-in-law. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Now, why all of a sudden am I finishing everything? I'll tell you why. Those of you who tuned into the last podcast will remember that I talked about the Gideon method, that a customer of Wool & Honey's Wool & Honey is a local yarn shop in Michigan. And one of their customers told them about this thing called the Gideon method. And again, I'm following it as they wrote about it, which basically is you identify 6 WIPs, in my case, maybe 7. And you prioritize them. I want to get this finished first. I want to get, however criteria you assign to them. For me, it was get this done, because this was had a sleeve and a half. It was like, come on, get it done. And then the next in line was the Radiate shawl, because I really wanted to have this available to gift, and also because I had just gone to the Stephen West workshop. And this sock was on the needles, as was the other socks. So the Gideon method basically is you identify these WIPs, you put them in order that you wanted, and you work on the WIPs for 12 hours. Okay, you just work on that one WIP for 12 hours. Whether it's consecutive hours, or an hour here, an hour there, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so put a total of 12 hours. I don't keep track of the hours. I keep track of a week at a time. So there is what I would call a primary WIP for a week at a time. And that was this. It was this. And it was finish the sock and get the other thing. That's not to say that I have not cast on other things, but not at the rate that I was casting on. So it is helping me get things done. It's helping me identify which ones I want to get finished, which ones I frogged. I did frog some WIPs, and they needed to be frogged. Just to move things along. And for me, it's working. So I will continue with that, with the whole Gideon method of identifying the WIPs and just working on that for just a solid week at a time. It might be 8 hours, it might be 12 hours, it might be 15 hours, doesn't matter. I'm not being totally monogamous with that WIP, but I am being mostly, most of my attention is on that WIP. And that's how I seem to be getting things done, which again, it's very unusual for me. So I advocate for that. This week's WIP, which will take priority, is my Sandoval sweater. I tested this for This Bird Knits, Annie Haas of This Bird Knits, and I have like 4 inches left on the bottom, and then I have the sleeves. I did notice that some people actually start their sleeve even when they're not finished with the bottom, and I did that. For me, that doesn't work, so I put it back on the holder, and I'll finish the bottom. And I think this neckline is perfect. I've tried it on. It's perfect. A lot of the folks who tested it or are working on it, are doing it in a superwash DK. This is what I would call a light superwash, not really heavily superwashed. Sport base from Spin Cycle, and I love working with it. I really had some doubts that the contrast was not contrasty enough, that it was really very sort of a subdued contrast. However, I kind of love it. So I'm really excited that this will make some progress. Now, this whole Gideon method that I'm following is that if I don't, by the end of next weekend, finish this goes to the back of a queue of WIPs. So it's not like, oh, well, I'll put it down, I'll pick something else, I'll come back to that. I'm done with this. until it comes around again in its cycle. And that's fine with me. I'm in no rush to do this. I just want to do it right, and I want to love it. So I don't care if it takes me another couple weeks, but this will be the concentration this week. Okay. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. So because I'm a relatively novice sweater knitter, I have learned lessons from each of the sweaters. For example, don't tell anybody, tell everybody, I did not swatch this sweater. Lesson learned, swatch, swatch, swatch. I did not, because, you know, you start to understand your measurements, and you start to understand how things fit and what works and what doesn't work. And as a new sweater knitter, I'm reading patterns, and I understand what positive ease means now, what negative ease means now. I understand my measurements better, I understand the fit I like. So what lesson did I learn from this one? Swatch, number one. Number two, I'm not sure there were short rows on the back of this sweater. In fact, I'll look at the pattern. I'm pretty sure there wasn't. And for me, short rows on the back of the sweater really, really work. To lift the back neck. This is like too sloppy for me. And I've seen a lot of photos of people wearing this sweater, and they usually that sometimes they wear a blouse under it, and sometimes they wear a turtleneck, or sometimes they wear something to, and again, that's not me. I'm not a double layer shirt person. That makes me really uncomfortable. I have a camisole on now, that doesn't, but if I've seen people wear blouses under this. That would be really uncomfortable for me. So, but there were no short rows around the neck. And I think that was a problem. I'm gonna check it. I'm relatively sure that's the case. But if I'm gonna do a sweater, I need to make sure that there are short rows in the back of the neck with this neck style, with a crew neck, you know. It's not a boat neck, because then the boat neck would have more shoulder structure. It's definitely a crew neck, but I would say, let me just look at my projects. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, but I think I'm pretty sure I'm correct that there was no short row shaping the back. The other thing, and a friend of mine pointed this out to me as well, when you don't have any shaping in the body, right? There's no shaping in this body, just a straight down body. When you lift your arms up, the whole sweater lifts up. And I think it's because it's in the round and it's not sewn in sweaters. My raglan sweater doesn't do this, but this does. So my friend Karen pointed that out, and I thought, you know, I think she's right. And one of the things I wanted to do was to make sure that if there's no shaping in the body, how can I make sure that it doesn't do this, that it doesn't lift up? I'm looking at the pattern, but yeah, there is short row. There is short row back. There is short row shaping, but it didn't work for me. Yeah, because Andrea usually does that. I don't know why this didn't work. The body fits fine. I mean, the body fits fine. So the lesson is, for me, is to be really careful around the neck. I don't like bobbles. I modified it. I know some other friends of mine also didn't like the bobbles, so they also modified it, some twisted stitches. I put a textured pearl pattern in, so it works whatever. I'm thinking that this is, I have a bunch of what I call novelty knits, and I think this might be a novelty knit. I'm not sure yet. If I can do that crochet in the back behind, just a chain, just to pull it in a little, I might have deeper appreciation for it. But it was an interesting process. This colorwork sweater versus the Koivu sweater, which I had done, and by Caitlin Hunter. It's in one of my maybe I wore it last podcast, where the design was in the neck, but I didn't do the rest of the design of the body. And I appreciate that, and I like that. A yoke design is enough. I don't need it all over the body, for me. Other people look fantastic in it. I'm slightly in the arms. I was like, get this freaking thing off the needles. You know, I had more color work on the arms. And then it bothered me a little because I was using 12-inch circs. I went down back to magic loop. So it was like, make up your mind, woman. But it's done. And I have worn it a couple times. So who's to say? And this one, I think my lesson on this was maybe, it's backwards, maybe a drapier fabric than this. This is, I think, gonna be drapier, but I have to maybe be more careful about drape and sizing. I think it's, I've tried it on, it's fine, but I've seen others that have done this, and it's looser. I think the arms are more swancho-like, so it's not really gonna come, it's gonna come, the arms are gonna start like from here instead of like from here. So we'll see how it turns out. I think it's gonna be, for me, a little bit more fitted. So I'm gonna go down a little bit on the length, and then I think to myself, why? Just do it a little shorter, because I could wear that over dresses or skirts or something. So I'm hoping to make good progress, right, this next week on Sandoval, which I think the test knit was Dirty Little Secret was the test knit name, and it's gone now to Sandoval. And I keep in my mind, I'm thinking, it's the Dirty Little Secret test knit. No, it's the Sandoval. So I think there's maybe one more color work pattern on a sleeve. I might not do it. I'm tired of it. I just might just, it's not something you would notice anyway. So, and again, this is very low contrast. I don't think you'd notice it, that there's no color work. See, I keep doing this. So the lesson is make sure that the back shaping is enough. I might have gone another couple of rounds of shaping had I known that it was gonna lay like this. Then again, I'm gonna try that crochet thing and see if it works. So yeah, love the colors. The colors, and Magpie is like fantastic to work with. So I'm a big advocate of Magpie. Let me tell you what else is on my needles. Again, I'm gonna concentrate mostly on this. I am gonna dilly-dally with some other things that I'm working on. I'm gonna finish the other sock, which is on the needles, and that's like mindless. I don't even count that as a whip because it just goes with me everywhere. And this one I did the Afterthought heel, which I really love. Afterthought heel. It fits me really, really well. I took a Craftsy course with Susan B. Anderson, my first toe-up socks. I highly recommend it. She's a fantastic teacher. You know, she speaks so clearly, and I'm crazy about her teaching style. So I'd strongly recommend that. Okay. When I'm looking around for other things. No, I think that's mostly that I've got handy. My sweater lessons, more sweater lessons. I'm not a fan of flat sweater knitting like cardigan. And it might be because of my rowing out on my purl side. And Julie Weissenberger of Cocoa Knits had a suggestion that you use interchangeable needles, and on your right needle, you change to a size or 2 smaller when you're purling in flat stockinette. And that will tighten up the purl side. And then you go back to your regular size when you're doing, and that's the right-hand needle. Yeah, one of them. But anyway, she has a great tutorial on it, so go to her site and learn about it. But I'm gonna try that and see if that helps. So as a result, I'm not crazy about flat sweater knitting. I'm much happier with in the round sweater knitting, and I swatch in the round, so I want to show you. I'm still casting on. I'm just not gonna move forward with them. I'm gonna put them in the queue. When I knit my socks with in the DK weight with Cynthia, she I bought the yarn at Heart and Spirit Atlanta, and that's where she was teaching the class. And if those of you who have taken classes in a local yarn shop, you know you should probably buy the yarn that you're going to use from that local yarn shop. So I guess that's an unspoken rule. And so I bought my DK yarn at Heart and Spirit, and for the first time, I used neighborhood fiber. You know, the phone rang and it went off. Anyway, hi, I'm back. Sorry. I'll try and edit this so it looks a little seamless. If not, the trials and tribulations of a podcaster. All right, let me just straighten that. And then my remote went wonky. Anyway, hi again. I was talking about my lessons and swatching and the fact that I don't like to do plain flat stockinette because I row out on my purl side. So I'm trying to stay within the Gideon method and concentrate on one project at a time, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna dabble, but it'll be more controlled dabbling, so to speak. So the DK socks that I knit with Cynthia's 2 at a time toe-up sock class was a neighborhood fiber DK, and the colorway was called Alice Gudzinski. And Clarita, who is in charge of, who's the head of I think I know why my remote didn't work. Battery fell out. How funny is that? I'm just noticing that. Anyway, Clarita names her colorways after famous Baltimore landmarks, or they're in Baltimore, and she names it for Baltimore suburbs or towns or streets. This one she named for a well-known Baltimore artist. Her name is Alice Gudzinski, and this is Neighborhood Fibers logo, their label, and this is the colorway. And I loved working on those socks. I loved how it came out. So Magley at Heart and Spirit worked with Clarita to make sure that it came as close to the sock as possible. And I got 4 skeins of this. Now, I don't usually knit sweaters in a variegated yarn, but I so fell in love with this. I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. One thing I did swatch, but I swatched in the round this time because this is a in the round sweater. And I swatched in the round, and I think it really made a difference in my stitch definition and making gauge. Now, the pattern is an Isabel Kramer pattern. It is called Ready for Fall. So you can see there's color work, but there's color work on the bottom. So right over here. And when I saw the yarn, I thought I have a great, like, sort of a moss green yarn that I could use. It's probably a sport, but I don't think it would make that much of a difference in the color work on the bottom. So it would complement this nicely. So this is the colorway. I did swatch in the round because I felt that I'm making the sweater in a round. I need to swatch in the round. So here's my swatch. The pattern calls for a size 6 needle. I'm a very loose knitter. I went down to a size 5 into the swatch, and it was dead on. So here's the swatch. This is my little label of So here's the swatch for that yarn. Now it's gonna pull. It's definitely gonna pull. I am not gonna alternate skeins because, as my friend Judy says, it's a handmade sweater. In dyed yarns, it's gonna pull. It's homemade. Live with it, deal with it. And the last time I did, where I used 2 yarns and alternated, it's striped. And I didn't want it to do that with this. So I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go with it, you know, pooling or not, I'm just gonna go with it. So in swatching in the round, what you do is for those of you who don't know, you go one direction, knit, then you move the yarns down the needle to the other side, and you take that yarn around and just sort of like let it hang and knit back. So what you're left with is just like these strings of yarn. And right before I soak it and block it, I cut it, and then it lays flat. And I made gauge. So this is gonna be the sweater. I did cast on because, you know, I have cast on items. So I did at least satisfy my casting on while I was finishing up my other WIPs. So I satisfied and I decided I would stop at a certain point. And I did. I stopped at the short row point. I did the short rows. But this is how this is the neck. It's top down. So you see it's going to pull, but I kind of don't care and I don't mind it. And I think it will just make for an more interesting sweater. But I love how it's knitting up. I just love how this is the back, this is short rows, and the front. And then it just goes down until there's going to be some short row shaping around the bodice, right below the bodice, which is great. So it won't do this. Maybe not as much. But yeah, so it's on the needles and it'll go in the queue. It'll go in the back of the queue. But I really highly recommend that you try swatching in the round. And that's another lesson I learned. If I'm gonna knit a sweater in the round, swatch it in the round, because I think your gauge is gonna be more even. And so the stitch definition was great, and I did not row out on the purl side. For me, it's lessons for me. So yeah, I'm excited about getting started on this. Very excited. So it'll go to the back of the line. You know, my Gideon line, I'm calling it. So that was a lesson. The other lessons I did was on I knit 2 ranunculuses. You can check my project page on Ravelry. And one I knit in a Tussa Tweed, BC Garns Tussa Tweed silk. It is light as a feather. It's wonderful. I did swatch for that. I did meet gauge. It called for a size 10 needle or 10.5 needle, the pattern. I went to a size 8 on that. That's, and it's fine. And I did the sleeves right above the elbows. Perfect, very airy. I love it. That's the one where I started stockinette and then somehow I turned myself around and did the bottom part in reverse stockinette. So it's stockinette, reverse stockinette. But because of the color, you really can't tell. So there was a lesson, pay attention. And then the next one I did was in Primrose, her MCN fingering. I love it. I did not, I used 2 skeins on that sweater, not very much, and I did not alternate. And there's very little pooling on it. I mean, it's a little bit, but it's not, like, you know, who cares? I did not swatch for that one because I had done the same pattern with a different fabric, swatch. However, I was lucky and I went up a needle size this time to a size 9, and it fits perfectly. I love it. However, I got kind of lazy with the sleeves and I wanted to make it like 3/4 sleeves, but instead I made it like right at the elbow. Technically, I could take it out and go down because I have enough yarn to do that. I won't. I can't really wear it now. We're gonna have to wear something under it. But in the spring and the fall, it'll be beautiful. It'll be perfect. So a lesson to me is either do long sleeves, for me, again, either do long sleeves, 3/4 sleeves, or above the elbow sleeves. Not right at the elbow, which is what this is. So that one I'm like, wish I had done it. A little longer sleeves, but that's okay. You know, I also did a different neckline for that. I should have gone with my gut more and done the same neckline I did for the first one, which was the one in the pattern. Okay, really minor details, but these are great lessons that you learn from doing something. And then I write all this down on Ravelry, in my Ravelry project page. I write everything down. So if I do it again, I would love to make another ranunculus. I love the shape of that sweater. I would make the next one long sleeves and maybe in a DK. In that case, I probably would stay with the size 9 and I would swatch in the round. So for me, swatching in the round, if you're gonna do a sweater in the round, it's really a more accurate thing. And again, I did gauge. I met gauge on this one, going a size down in needle size, which I usually do anyway. So FYI, lesson learned on that one as well. So that's good teaching. That was excellent teaching. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll notice that I had a picture taken with Vince of, I don't know how to say his Instagram name, Vizu Crafts. He's a master crocheter. He showed me some, like what they're going to do in their crochet class is crochet a hat. You cannot tell the difference between knitting that hat or crocheting that hat. He's master. So I thought, my friend Teresa and I went down to the Craftivist yesterday. He was there, and he just spent a few minutes with me saying, this is how you do double crochet for a blanket, a lap blanket. And it was so great. He's such a great guy. He's so generous with his time. And meanwhile, my friend Teresa decides she's going to do it. She's going to do a king size blanket with her scraps. She's already gotten started, and it's already like incredibly beautiful. She's very talented because she started out crocheting as a young woman and just picked it right back up. I did as well, but I can't seem to pick it right back up. But with him spending time and explaining certain things about crochet, I think I'm going to give it a whirl with maybe some DK or worsted yarn that I have left over rather than fingering. If I do fingering, I'll probably do magic knot with a lot of my fingering and hold it double. So, but again, that's like, well, I'm not even putting in the queue. It's not even in the queue. There's enough stuff in the queue right now. Anyway, that's the story today. Thanks for stopping by, and I know there's probably more I can tell you, but I didn't have a good night's sleep and I'm a little foggy brained. I don't know why I didn't. It was one of those like wake up 3:30. I'm like trying to go back to sleep and it not working. So I'm going to take a little nap later after I finish cooking dinner. I'm going to take a little lay down. Maybe a little lay down. See. So these are good lessons. You know, if you're a new sweater knitter or an experienced sweater knitter, a lot of the women that I knit with are very experienced sweater knitters. And, you know, they're always like learning lessons from everything they're doing as well. So I don't feel so bad. I don't really feel bad at all. I just feel like, okay, if I want to continue down this track, then I need to really read my journals. For me, the journal is on the Ravelry project page. By the way, any of the patterns or yarns, you'll find the information on that on my project pages in Ravelry. So again, I'm the Slow Knitter ATL in Ravelry, and just look at my projects and you'll see all the information of the patterns, the yarns I use, and all that. I think that's it. I think I'm done now. Yeah, and so I'll be back in a couple weeks. I'm headed down to Tampa at the end of this month, so I might do a podcast either right before I go or right after I come back. Also, little chatter, I was on the phone with my International Virtual Knit Night group yesterday, and for those of you who aren't familiar with them, you need to go to their Facebook page, International Virtual Knit Nights. There's a process for being included, and it's just a fantastic group to be part of. You meet people from all over the world working on very similar projects that you're working on. Like I talked about my neckline with them yesterday, and they were like, here's what you do. Yeah, you need to do this. I might go all around the neck. That happened to me. You know, so you learn. And I was on the phone yesterday with the moderator and his partner, and they're out of Athens, Greece. She's an incredible maker. He is knitting, and he's doing an incredible job of knitting. Norway, New York. I mean, it's everywhere around the world. And when you see these people on Facebook, you're like, I know them. I talked to them on the phone. I talked to them. So they're great groups. So I really encourage you to drop by their Facebook page and learn International Virtual Knit Nights and learn about them and their criteria for becoming a member of our community. It's a fantastic group. Anyway, the little plug for them. That's it. Again, Gideon method's working. So I hope to have more to show you next time I podcast. All right, I'm going to have to reach over because somehow my remote is not working again because the battery fell out. I'm a mess. All right. Love you guys. Thank you very much to my subscribers. Please subscribe. You know, the other thing you can do is also hit the like button, thumbs up button, if you enjoyed this experience, and also share the video with your friends if you would like. That would be very nice. What am I supposed to say? Like, subscribe, and share. All right, see ya in a couple weeks, and thanks very much. And thank you very much for subscribing and holding on for me. Waiting for me to actually do it. So I'm trying every 2 or 3 weeks. All right, love it. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye, love you.